I never realized silence could be so loud until that night. It was supposed to be a celebration, my niece's 13th birthday. The house smelled of cake and perfume, fake laughter bouncing off walls that once held real warmth. I'd spent hours picking out her gift, a sleek $9, 180 smartphone she'd been begging for. I wanted to be the cool aunt, the one who never showed up empty-handed. Maybe, I thought, it would make my sister finally see that I wasn't useless. But when my niece tore open the wrapping paper, her laughter sliced sharper than any insult. Mom says if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. She giggled, holding the phone like a prize. 25 faces turned toward me, waiting for my reaction. Some smirked, some laughed outright. Even my mother, our mother, smiled awkwardly into her wine glass. The only sound missing was my own voice. I just nodded. Good to know, I whispered. I lifted my phone, tapped twice, once to confirm, once to execute. And the quiet buzz of my bank app confirmed what no one noticed. Every automatic payment, subscription, and linked card belonging to that house was now gone. Mortgage, utilities, streaming services. Poof, they'd taken my kindness for granted. They'd soon learn what life was like without it. That night I moved out. I didn't yell. I didn't slam doors. I just packed one black bag, passport, laptop, cash, and a small velvet box, and left. When they found it on the kitchen table the next morning, my family thought it was a mistake. But when they opened it, they found no note, only an envelope with a single phrase written inside. Consider this your silence returned. For years, I've been the invisible caretaker. When Dad died, I was the one who settled his debts. When Mom's medical bills piled up, I was the one who paid them. My sister, Lena, called me her backup plan. My brother-in-law, Greg, called me their financial cushion. And somewhere along the way, I'd become addicted to their dependence. But that night broke something permanent. By dawn, I'd driven 2 states away to a quiet coastal town called Ridgeport. The air smelled like salt and pine, and the locals didn't care who I was. Perfect. I rented a 1-room studio and slept for 14 hours straight, the first peaceful sleep I'd had in years. When I woke up, my phone was exploding with notifications, missed calls, voicemails, texts. Lena, Emma, this isn't funny. The bills aren't going through. Mom, where are you? The power's out. Greg, if this is your idea of a joke, grow up. By the next week, they were begging. I didn't respond. I just watched. I'd set up a few quiet measures before I left. A complete withdrawal from the joint account that funded their lifestyle. A reassignment of my mother's trust fund legally mine after Dad's passing. And a lockout on all shared insurance policies. I even rerouted my company's payroll deposits to a new, untraceable account. They had no idea that for the past 5 years, I'd been paying their property taxes, or that their car insurance was in my name, or that Lena's emergency credit card was attached to my account, and now, everything stopped. Ridgeport was peaceful in a way that made time stretch. I started sketching again, something I hadn't done since college. The sound of waves became my therapy, the seagulls my background noise. For the first time, I was living for myself, but the peace didn't last long. One afternoon, as I was buying groceries, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Greg, you ruined us. Hope you're proud of yourself. No apology, no remorse, just blame. I smiled. Typical. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I opened my laptop and logged into a private surveillance folder I'd set up months ago. One that linked to the smart devices I'd installed throughout Mom's house. Cameras, doorbells, thermostats, all connected to my master account. On the screen, I saw chaos. Boxes stacked against walls, bills scattered across the table. Lena pacing, Mom crying, Greg shouting into a phone. My niece sat in the corner, her fancy phone dead, muttering complaints. And I felt nothing, no pity, no satisfaction, just a quiet, hollow awareness that I was finally free. A few days later, I got a letter, not an email, not a text, an actual letter, postmarked from my old address. Inside was a single photo of me and my niece from years ago, before everything turned sour, and a note written in Lena's rushed handwriting. You've made your point, come home, Mom needs you. I almost laughed. They'd needed me for years, but never as a sister, only as a resource. Still, something in me stirred, the idea of home. The idea that maybe I could forgive, rebuild, move on. But then I noticed something odd on the photo. A faint watermark, a digital code barely visible near the bottom corner. I scanned it out of habit. It opened a hidden email address. When I logged in, I froze hundreds of messages. All sent between Greg and someone labeled only as L. L for Lena. And the subject lines, transfer complete. Funds from Dad's estate. She doesn't need to know. I felt my pulse quicken. They'd stolen from me again. The trust fund I thought Dad had divided fairly. Lena and Greg had transferred my share years ago, forging signatures and faking documents, assuming I'd never check. That night, I sat in my studio, hands trembling over my laptop. I opened a new document, titled it simply, Retribution Plan. The first line I typed, they think I disappeared. They have no idea I've only just begun. For the next month, I lived in two worlds, my quiet, peaceful new life by the sea, and the digital labyrinth of their downfall. I began small. I accessed Greg's investment account, which was in truth a shell for hiding undeclared income. I forwarded it anonymously to the IRS. Then I sent Lena's employer a package containing her unreported expenses. One by one, their carefully built lies began to crack. I wasn't cruel for cruelty's sake. I just returned what was owed when Mom's health insurance lapsed, because I'd been paying it all along. I quietly reinstated it in my name at a private clinic miles away. She'd get the care she needed, but Lena and Greg, they'd get nothing. Every night I'd stand on the balcony, the ocean wind on my face, whispering to myself, "You taught me what silence feels like. Now you'll learn what it costs." A month later, a news headline appeared online. Local couple investigated for financial fraud and forgery. Their photos, their house, everything public. My phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown contact. "Mom, Emma, please, enough, I'm sorry." I stared at the screen for a long time, my heart tightened. But my resolve stayed steel. I typed back one message. "I stopped being your safety net the moment you laughed." Then I blocked the number. The ocean outside was restless that night, waves slamming against the rocks like applause. I stood there, closing my eyes, breathing in the salt and freedom. My niece's laughter still echoed in my mind, sharp, mocking, childish. But somewhere deep inside, I hoped she'd remember the woman who bought her a phone, and the silence that followed after, because one day, when she's old enough to understand, she'll realize revenge isn't about anger. It's about balance, and I had finally beautifully restored mine. The morning I saw their faces in the news, I thought I'd feel nothing but satisfaction. Instead, there was an ache in my chest I couldn't name. The image flashed across every local station. Suburban couple under investigation for financial fraud and forgery. Lena's face was pale, her eyes wide and wet. Greg looked angry, no, cornered, their perfect suburban image shattered overnight. I sat on my balcony, a cup of coffee in my hands, watching the seagulls circle over the gray water. The air smelled of rain. Everything was calm, except for the storm I'd unleashed miles away. I wasn't sorry. But I also wasn't proud. I told myself this was justice, that I'd spent years being their silent provider, their forgotten daughter, their invisible sibling. I'd earned the right to cut their strings. But somewhere inside, a voice whispered, "You became what they made you." Cold, distant, untouchable, I ignored it. Revenge required silence, not doubt. A week later, a message arrived in my inbox. It was from an unknown sender, but the tone was unmistakably familiar. "You can't run from blood, Emma. Sooner or later, you'll see what you've done." No name, no signature, just that, at first, I thought it was Greg. Angry, desperate, trying to scare me. But something about it felt wrong, the phrasing, the rhythm. It didn't sound like him. That night, as rain pounded against the windows, I logged back into the hidden surveillance archive I'd set up years ago. Most cameras were dark, either disabled or confiscated, but one still worked, the old storage shed behind Mom's house. Through the flickering lens, I saw someone moving inside, a small figure, thin, long hair tied back. My niece, she was sitting on the floor, clutching something in her hands. For a moment, I thought it was her phone, but then I realized it was my old sketchbook, the one I'd left behind years ago. Page after page, my drawings of her birthday sketches, doodles from family dinners, portraits I'd done when she was just a child. She wasn't laughing now. She was crying. I froze. My throat tightened. For the first time since I'd left, I saw innocence, not mockery. Maybe she finally understood the damage her words had caused. Or maybe she'd just learned that silence wasn't as harmless as it seemed. Still, I couldn't bring myself to look away. 2 days later, I got a knock on my door. When I opened it, a man in a gray suit stood outside. Mid-40s, calm eyes, the kind that hid too much. MS Hartley, yes, I'm Agent Miles, Financial Crimes Division. May I come in? My stomach dropped. He flashed a badge and I stepped aside. He didn't waste time. You're listed as a prior account holder and trustee for Lena and Gregory Weller. Their finances are under federal review. We're tracing all prior transfers. I see. I said carefully, keeping my tone even. He studied me. You recently moved here, yes? and you had access to multiple accounts tied to their assets. I managed a few payments, family support. Would you describe your relationship with them as close? That word, close, felt like a joke. I smiled politely. We were close enough for them to drain me dry. He raised an eyebrow. You seem remarkably composed, Ms. Hartley. I've had practice. He left after 20 minutes, leaving behind his card and a quiet warning. If you remember anything relevant, call me. As soon as he was gone, I locked the door and sank onto the couch. My heart was racing. Had I gone too far? Could they trace what I'd done? But then I reminded myself, every move I made was legal. I hadn't stolen a thing. I'd just taken back what was already mine. Still, the walls felt smaller that night. Days blurred into weeks. My revenge had momentum now. It no longer needed me to push it. Lena and Greg's accounts froze. Their reputation collapsed, and their so-called friends vanished. I began hearing whispers through old contacts. Lena was working 2 jobs. Greg was under investigation for tax evasion, and Mom was living with a cousin across town. Every few nights, I'd catch myself checking the camera feed again. My niece wasn't at the house anymore. Her room was empty. Bare walls, mattress gone, dolls boxed up. I wanted to believe she was okay, but the truth gnawed at me. What if I'd punished her for her mother's sins? I thought about reaching out, just once. A letter, maybe, something gentle, like I'm okay. I hope you are too. But then the news came. Greg was arrested. Fraud, embezzlement, tax falsification. The charges piled high. Lena showed up at the courthouse pale and shaking, cameras flashing in her face. She didn't even look at him when he was led away in handcuffs. Watching that clip online, I felt something strange, not joy. Not guilt, just emptiness, revenge I was learning didn't always fill the hole it came from. That evening I went walking along the pier. The sea was restless, waves slapping against the wooden posts. I was halfway down when I heard someone say my name, Emma. I turned. Standing there, drenched from the rain, was my niece. She looked older. Taller, thinner, eyes swollen from crying. In her hand, she held my sketchbook. I had to find you, she said, her voice trembling. I froze. How did you? Mom told me everything. Her lip quivered. You're not the villain they said you were. She took a shaky step forward. They used you, and I laughed because I thought it was funny. I didn't know it hurt. The words hit harder than I expected. For a moment, the wind died down, and all I could hear was her voice. Soft, broken, real. She held out the sketchbook. You can have this back. I shook my head. Keep it. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve it. Neither did they, I thought. But she was different. Listen to me. I said quietly, you're not your mother or Greg or anyone else, what you said that night. It hurt, yes, but it's over now. She hesitated. Is it? Yes. I lied, because I still wasn't done. That night, after she left, I sat by my desk, staring at the map I'd drawn on my wall. A web of lines connecting every lie Lena and Greg had ever told. There was one thread left to pull, one final knot to unravel, the property deed. Years ago, Dad had left the family house under my name. Lena convinced me to share it for tax reasons. I'd signed the transfer papers without reading them. Later, I learned she'd switched ownership entirely to her and Greg. Now, with the investigation ongoing, that house was frozen property, but not for long. I opened my laptop, accessed the old notary's email archive I'd quietly backed up, and found what I needed, proof of the forged signature. One message, drafted carefully, went to Agent Miles. You may want to review the attached file. It confirms document falsification under Section 13A. By morning, it was done. The house, the land, the savings, all legally reverted to me. When Lena woke up, she'd have nothing but her last name. The next evening, my phone buzzed with a single message. No name, no number. Just words that made my chest tighten. You won, Emma. Are you happy now? I typed back before I could stop myself. No, but I'm free. I didn't send it. I just watched the cursor blink until the screen dimmed. The ocean roared outside, thunder rolling in the distance. The rain returned hard and cold, washing the salt from my balcony railing. Somewhere in that sound, I heard my niece's laughter again. Not cruel this time, but young and innocent, echoing through the years I could never get back. I whispered into the storm, you'll be better than us, you have to be. Then I closed the window, turned off the lights, and watched the storm swallow the horizon. Because revenge might end a cycle, but it never really ends the pain. It just changes who carries it next, and tomorrow I still had one last move to make. When morning came, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt empty. The house deed was officially mine. Greg was facing years behind bars, and Lena's reputation had evaporated overnight. The revenge I'd crafted so carefully was now complete. But peace still hid behind the shadows of everything I'd lost. For days, I stayed inside my small apartment by the sea, watching the water shift from blue to gray. Sometimes I'd think about calling Mom, but then I'd remember how she'd smiled that night at the table, when my niece mocked me when no one said a word to stop her. That smile had carved itself into my mind deeper than any insult. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Mom's in the hospital, please. She asked for you." It was Lena. I stared at the screen for a long time, unsure whether it was another manipulation. But something inside me softened, maybe because I'd already taken everything else from her. Maybe because the word Mom still carried weight even after everything. 2 hours later, I was driving back to the city. The roads were the same, but they felt narrower now, like memories pressing in from both sides. When I reached the hospital, I almost turned around. I didn't want to see pity in anyone's eyes, or worse, forgiveness. But I walked in anyway. Mom looked small in the hospital bed, her silver hair spread across the pillow. Lena sat beside her, pale and silent. When she saw me, her lips parted, but no sound came out. I stood at the door, unsure what to say. Mom opened her eyes. "Emma." Her voice was weak, but the way she said my name. It wasn't like before, it was softer. I walked closer. "I'm here." She reached for my hand. "You." Disappeared. I had to. Her eyes glistened. "They told me things. I didn't want to believe them. I almost laughed. You didn't need to believe anything, Mom. You just needed to ask." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm sorry." The words hit me harder than I expected. For a second, I forgot all the bitterness, all the years of being invisible. I saw her not as the mother who ignored me, but as the fragile woman who once held me when I was scared. Lena finally spoke. "You got what you wanted. Isn't that enough?" Her voice was sharp, but it trembled beneath the surface. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. Her once perfect hair was dull, her nails bitten down, dark circles under her eyes. Life had taken its revenge on her long before I arrived. "Enough," I repeated quietly. "You think this was about winning? Then what?" She snapped. "You ruined our lives, Emma." I stepped closer. "No, Lena, you ruined mine years ago. I just stopped letting you do it." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. For a moment, I saw the sister I used to have, the one who used to braid my hair, who shared secrets under blankets when we were little. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she whispered. "Greg said." I cut her off. "Greg said a lot of things, and you believed him because it was easier than admitting you liked the benefits, a silence." Only the beeping of machines filled the room. Mom's voice broke through softly. "Family shouldn't destroy each other." I turned to her. "Family shouldn't use each other either." She closed her eyes, a faint smile trembling on her lips. Maybe we all forgot how to love properly. I didn't know what to say. There was nothing left that could rewrite the past. After a moment, I leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Rest, Mom, I'll handle everything." Then I turned to leave. Lena grabbed my arm. "Please, Emma, don't walk away again." I looked at her hand, thin, desperate fingers gripping mine, and felt an odd sense of déjà vu. This was what they'd always done, hold on when they needed something, let go when they didn't. "I'm not walking away," I said softly. "I'm letting go." And for the first time I meant it. Outside, the air smelled of rain again. The sky hung low, gray and heavy. I walked to my car, my reflection blurred on the wet pavement. But before I opened the door, I noticed something on the seat. A black envelope. My heart skipped. I hadn't left anything there. Inside was a letter, typed neatly, unsigned. "You think this is over, but we both know it's not. You took everything from us. Now we'll take what matters most to you." A chill crawled down my spine. I looked around the parking lot. Empty, quiet, only the faint hum of hospital lights in the distance. Who sent it? Greg was in custody. Lena couldn't have done it. She was inside. That left only one person. My niece, but why? I sat in the car, rain tapping against the windshield, trying to piece it together. Maybe she'd found out what I'd done to her parents. Maybe she blamed me for the chaos. Or maybe this was her turn to play the game I'd taught so well. That night, I couldn't sleep. The waves outside my apartment sounded different, harsher, more violent. I kept the letter on the table, reading it again and again until the ink began to blur. I'd always known revenge was a cycle. I just never expected it to come back so soon. A week later, I got a call from Agent Miles. "MS Hartley," he said. "I thought you'd want to know. Greg took a plea deal. He's naming accomplices." My chest tightened. "Accomplices? Yes, but don't worry, your name isn't on the list." I exhaled slowly. "Then why call me?" "Because someone filed a counterclaim this morning against you." I froze. "What?" "A minor represented by guardian ad litem. She's accusing you of financial sabotage, emotional distress, and malicious intent. I didn't need him to say her name. I already knew, my niece. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. Then I managed. She's 13. She's also clever. Miles said quietly. Her testimony references actions you've admitted to in recorded statements. I hung up before he could finish. For the first time, the calm inside me cracked. I'd spent months orchestrating the perfect revenge, and somehow I'd created a mirror image of myself. The niece who once mocked me now stood in my place, seeking her own justice. That night, I drove back to Ridgeport Beach. The air was cold, the tide high. I walked barefoot across the wet sand, letting the ocean pull at my ankles. I thought of everything. The laughter at that birthday table, the nights I'd cried in silence, the satisfaction of watching them fall. And then I thought of her, my niece, sitting on that cold shed floor, holding my sketchbook, tears on her face. Maybe I'd taught her more than I meant to. I pulled out my phone and typed a message. No names, no blame. Just words I wish someone had told me years ago. The only way to stop the hurt is to stop the cycle. I forgive you. Please forgive me too. I hit send and dropped the phone into the tide. The screen flickered once, then went dark beneath the waves. For a long moment I stood there, the wind tearing at my hair, salt burning my skin. The water washed over my feet, then retreated, as if carrying the last remnants of my anger away. When I finally turned back toward the lights of town, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, lightness. Not happiness, not victory, but peace, real peace. They would go on with their lives, haunted or healed. It wasn't mine to decide anymore. All I knew was that I'd walked through fire, and somehow I'd come out the other side still standing. The world was quiet again, and this time the silence didn't hurt,